Hey guys, Bobby Bollinger here, and today I'll be bringing you an edition of my 2017 team predictions for the NFL. It's been a while since I've shown up here, but football season is upon us. So starting off, this episode will start off with the Miami Dolphins, a team that finally got to the playoffs last year and is looking to build on that. Can they? Well, let's see. So, question number one, and I'll have questions for every team. For the Dolphins, it's who's the quarterback? With Ryan Tannehill injured, it's going to be hard to replace him. He wasn't the greatest quarterback, but their options the Dolphins have currently are Matt Moore and Jay Cutler. Now, Matt Moore came in last year when Ryan Tannehill was injured, and he didn't do a bad job. He obviously didn't do anything good enough to take the job, but I didn't think he was bad. Like, he was close enough to Tannehill. Meanwhile, Adam Gase apparently really likes Jay Cutler, and Jay Cutler does know the offensive system. But he is also a proven loser, so he's probably not going to work out too well. The good thing about Ryan Tannehill's injury is it happened early, so these guys are going to get plenty of practice before the regular season starts. One major problem is, though, they only really have one guy to throw to, and Jarvis Landry is great, but when he's the only guy out there, it's not hard to suffocate their passing game at all. So, Dolphins, I think, will have a quarterback problem. And going into the future, Ryan Tannehill, if he has any more injuries, he'll become frail. Like, one injury, okay, we can work with that. You might not get injured again. After the second injury, I've experienced that, now you don't come back. So, Tannehill's in a tenuous situation. And number two, can the running game keep it up? Last year, their running game kind of exploded with the newfound power of Jay Ajayi. He had 2 consecutive 200-yard games, and I think he also had one more later on. The problem was the offensive line, like center Mike Pouncey, they weren't healthy all the time. And when Ajayi had all of his offensive linemen healthy and in place and firing on all pistons, he rushed for those 200 yards. When it wasn't complete, production went way down. And as I've said before, injuries tend to keep popping up. So, especially when it's on offensive linemen, so I don't expect the running game to be as great as it was last year. So the Dolphins, they're going to have some offensive troubles. Now, the good news for them is that they have plenty of good running backs, at least. Jay Ajayi, Kenyon Drake, I think it was. They have plenty of guys to go to if one starts to fail. And chances are one of them won't need the offensive line to be whole to be good enough as a runner. So we've established that there's going to be some offensive problems for the Dolphins this year, but what about the defense? Has it solidified? Like, in the past, like last year, it was all about Cameron Wake and Ndamukong Suh. Those guys were the defense, and they both did really good. The problem this year is that Cameron Wake is old. Really old. Like, could retire the end of the season old. So, chances are, for this season, he might regress. And if he regresses, and the Dolphins basically lose one of their two elites, that's going to be a major blow to their defense. And I don't think they've solidified the rest of their defensive positions enough to make up for if this guy loses a step. Now, Ndamukong Suh, he's got some time left in him. He'll be fine. But the Dolphins' defense has to step up this year with the offense likely getting worse. And I just don't see the defense stepping up. Like, best case scenario, it stays about the same. But that's just not enough. So, in the end, I have the Dolphins going 7-9. Now, before Ryan Tannehill was injured, I had them going to 9-7. Because I thought, it's still a solid team. I don't think it's improved too much, which is why it doesn't have the record it had last year, but it's still a solid team with a good chance of making the playoffs. Once Tannehill was injured, once they lost their quarterback, things had to be taken down a notch. Like, the Dolphins could do even worse than this, honestly. But I think 7-9 is a pretty fair placement for them. And that's, probably gonna miss the playoffs. And another thing I should tell you guys about this series as a whole is, what you see from these records down here, when all the teams are said and done for in my video series, those numbers might not add up. This is just what quality I think they have, and in consideration with their schedule. I don't actually run them together and think about it that way. So, that's the end of this video. Join us next time when we take a look at the Bills. Get it.